everyone, thanks for tuning in to In the Loop. This is our first podcast, and we have a wonderful guest with us today, Thomas Levine.
What's up?
And today he's going to be talking about an array of things, including Spotify and their radio. We're going to talk a little bit about code beats, and then we're going to talk about TikTok music compared to real music.
Yeah.
So,
no relation to Adam Levine, by the way.
Yeah,
Unfortunately not.
This is, we actually
Or
got
Adam.
Adam Levine's little brother on the show.
It runs in the family.
But so Thomas, tell us a little bit about how you got started. I guess doing music, because I know you play an instrument, you do all sorts of things online with music. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I started for the very first time playing an instrument in middle school, just because I was looking like a lot of other people for an elective, and I figured there would be the least amount of homework in band. So I went for that. Had really no idea what I was getting myself into. And then I picked up the saxophone, and I really enjoyed it. I think there was just an experience in being in that was so different from other academics that I stuck with it. I went through in high school. I did marching band, jazz band, a lot of the just school kind of stuff. I was in a band, actually a punk band on the side of my friends. Shout out Duck and Cover. But yeah, I mean, it was a really huge thing in my life. And then going into college, a lot of my friends were pursuing stuff that they'd always really known they wanted to do, and I didn't really know at all what I wanted to do. So since music was such a huge part of my life, I decided to study music in college. And it was a confusing path. Definitely a lot of factors went into it. But there was a point where I started leaning towards music business, more so music instead of music performance. And yeah, I mean, I play saxophone. I specialize in jazz. That's really what my degree's in. Can play piano, keys,
Nice.
bass, guitar. I've messed around with clarinet, but yeah, I mean, I just really love kind of just studying music. I like to play, but I don't really perform a lot. It's kind of an oxymoron, but yeah, my big thing that my huge moment was just studying music theory. A lot of people hate it because it's I guess the most sciencey part of music. But I, on the other hand, really liked it. I was whoa, these things we're studying about Baroque period music connect to the music we listen to today. And just starting to tell a story with that was something that I could see myself doing. So yeah, that's kind of how I got to where I am today in a nutshell.
That's really cool. And I know you said your senior year you had a crazy kind of ride the last year you were in school, and you ended up adding a minor in computer science. Could you tell us a little bit about why you made that decision?
So I guess it all started with a Vox video. There's one. So funny enough, YouTube's recommendation videos are ridiculous. They're always spot on. And I was watching a lot of music theory videos on Adam Neely's channel at the time. And then I got this video recommended, which was a study of male falsetto vocals in 2019. And it was actually from this website called pudding.cool. And this guy, he looked at a lot of the Spotify audio analysis features, or I guess information that's available on all their songs, and cross-referenced it with the top 100 songs for the year. And then he essentially created a proposal or an idea that there's that in 2019, for some reason, male falsetto vocals were what got you to the top 100, or what could keep songs up there. And I was that's so cool that you can just pick a musical element and then connect it to the real world in some meaningful way. And so that was kind of a thread in the back of my mind. I was still really interested in music business. So I think when COVID came around and there was a lot more time, I was just you know what, I have a lot of time now. I've been trying to kind of ramp it up with coding. I always felt that the pace I had taken with intro classes outside of the minor, I guess they're topics courses, they really didn't give me a great foundation. So when I could really take my own time to actually learn everything, and really go in depth, that's when I think I was like, you know what, like I think I could go like full time with this, like actually go and pursue this. So that's when I picked up the minor, and since then I've been kind of trying to learn and like pick up skills that will get me in that direction of working on a Vox video like that at some point or something like that.
That's really cool. That's awesome.
And it's like I know that Spotify behind the scenes has got to have some crazy audio analysis stuff like that. Like those guys have stuff that they're not showing.
Yeah, the craziest thing is like their A/B testing and just like the amount of stuff that probably goes into that. Like if you just open Spotify one day and it's like, oh, like the search bar looks a little different today, or like the green color on their logo is slightly different. It's like there must be so much that goes into that, like just planning and then research it. It's insane. I really would love to see what they do.
Yeah, no, it's like how they do the recommendations, and also like I wonder what kind of like audio analysis features they have for the artists on it, especially like the big artists on it, because they have like the power to just like tailor things for specific artists. Yeah, like, and I'm sure artists will pay for that. Like, huge amounts of money for stuff like that.
There's some companies. I found one called Chartmetric, and they like specialize essentially in looking for those insights. And yeah, they're definitely a big like insight analytics type company, but just from like my own research, is like poking around Spotify's documentation, it looks like they have like 5 main characteristics that they essentially like judge every song on. And I should have researched this before, but I believe it's like energy, danceability, valence. Not sure what that one is. And then I want to say one is like happiness, sadness. I think they have like, it's like a scale for that. And I'm forgetting what the other one is, but there's actually a lot of cool projects that will like visualize a song's characteristics from those 5 points, and then essentially kind of create like a profile of like your music based off of that, or like your playlists. And it's so interesting. I mean, just the way that you can profile a song or an artist. And I mean, at large scale, like you can look at, the top 100 and be like, what are the averages on each category? I could go on forever about it. But
Do you think any of that stuff is gatekeeping other artists? The fact that a lot of these big artists could have like access to these in-depth analysis tools and like kind of figure out a way to become the most viral or the most danceable or whatever.
Yeah, I would say I think there's somewhat of a formula to like viral music in a sense, or like, hitting just like a really popular level. I'm sure there's a huge component to how they, I guess, market it, or like how it gets big. I know TikTok is like a really huge way to just explode on social media now, but like just on a pure musicality standpoint, I think there is essentially like a formula. Like pop music in itself is a genre that kind of blends all genres. Like if you look at just popular music, it's like, oh, that's, I guess, hip hop, but also like R&B and sometimes rock, and like it's very. The lines blend a lot, but I think pop music in it itself is definitely formulaic. I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it kind of seems like genres are kind of disappearing, and it's just becoming like kind of your feeling. Yeah, and Spotify does that with like radios, and they do that with other kinds of playlists for you and different things like that. Yeah. So they definitely have a lot going on in the background.
Yeah, some of my For You playlists will jump genres like every 5 seconds. It'll be like, oh, here's your gym playlist, and it's like heavy metal and then hip hop, and you're like, you know what? I like this. I want this.
Yeah, I have a funny story with that, because I listen to a lot of lo-fi like when I'm studying or working, so all of my playlists are just like lo-fi, hip hop, jazz, like all in separate categories too. But it's funny because they all can come into one as well.
Classic.
Yeah, and they just added that feature now where you can share like a playlist with someone, and then it connects you two together and it creates a playlist.
The blend thing is insane.
Yeah, that thing's crazy.
It's so I'm hyped for like if you go to like a party or something, or go to some kind of gathering, they have like a QR code on the wall so everybody that comes in like scans it, and then your kind of music tastes get added to like the group playlist, and it just plays together. That like just a kind of like generalizing, instead of it just 2 people combining it, you get like a whole group. Like there's so much potential with that. Spotify's
I feel like
insane.
that sounds like very like reasonable too. Like it's just you're taking a kind of like just a blend of everything, like of their profile. Like it's not a bad idea.
Yeah. Have you played around with some of the blending?
So I really have not like created something yet. Or you were saying like with their features.
Yeah, with the yeah.
Yeah, so My goal is honestly, so I'm really interested in actually like the radio feature where you can pick one song and start a radio off of it, kind of like Pandora in a sense.
Yeah.
But like, so this is part of the reason I actually got into this. I would like listen to a song and then like it would just autoplay to another. And I started to notice that a lot of the times it wasn't like the genre or the artist per se that was, getting you that other song. It was like a musical element. It would be like the drums were like more of like a live rock kit instead of like an 808 or something, or like there would be like really cool chords in the background or like a horn line, and yeah, I mean that's something that I actually want to like piece together in some way. Yeah.
That'd be insane. That's that stuff's wild. And I'm glad you brought up Pandora because like Chris and I were talking about yesterday. It was like it's like our parents who use Pandora now.
Right. Yeah, they kind of like Facebook and then Spotify's like Instagram, and there's something new that's coming that's gonna be the TikTok of the music industry.
For sure.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say probably
in the loop.
I wonder.
In the loop.
I wonder who.
I think I know a few guys.
Yeah.
Well, so I know you wanted to talk a little bit about, I guess, musicianship and TikTok fame. So, do you? I guess, and this is something that I kind of think of when it comes to that is a lot of TikTok people are becoming artists. I saw Charli D'Amelio's whatever song, and she was doing her dances, and I was like, like this just sounds like a pop song. But I guess what are your thoughts on those things?
I think it's interesting, especially listening to like other conversations from like people in the music industry, just like the financial aspect of, like say a musician that's been like really grinding for the last few years, like they're really dedicated, and like they're getting by, like they're putting their heart and soul into their music, versus I mean sometimes you have like a TikTok artist where it's like they just like really like got lucky and then just made like so much money on it. And like that's a pretty game changing like player now in the music industry. I mean, like you have these people who are just becoming millionaires just like that, and I think it's hard to kind of have a solid stance on it, because I mean that is the way I think that like technology and just society is going to have more like social interactions that just build up large fan bases. But yeah, I mean it's a concern, I would say, also for people who are there just to be a musician in a sense, instead of be a heavily monetized musician, and it brings up an interesting debate too of like why people create music. Like do people create to get big, or because it's like they personally and like intrinsically are driven by what they're making, and yeah, it's an interesting
combination of both,
right?
Like,
you can definitely,
a lot of people like making music, but also if they can get rich off of it, why not get rich off of it?
Yeah, I had a really interesting experience. My sophomore year summer, I interned with this Grammy Award winning group in Chicago called Third Coast Percussion, and so they're
crazy.
They're so contemporary crazy percussion, like super skilled guys, all studied like classical and contemporary percussion for a long time. And something that was like really hard for me at first was a lot of their music is like super like what's the word? I guess like niche in a sense. Like if you go into it like expecting to listen to this music as like an earworm kind of thing, or like just like a top 100 song, like I mean they have like songs that track, but like that's not why I think it's written. It's more so just for like the objective of experience of just hearing it, of just like your judgments you make of like listening to sounds. And it's kind of like going to an art museum in a sense, and like making your own opinions and like judgments, and feeling what you feel based off of something. And I think like listening to music in that sense is sometimes more rewarding. Like you really are like listening to some element, like you like the instrumentation or like the chord progression. But I think I would call it like more mindful listening in a sense. And yeah, sorry, I just got on another tangent. But yeah, I think that's a cool way also, just like that divide between, I mean, music just can be like so catchy sometimes, and like that, and then something that if you listen to it off the bat, you're like, wait, what is going on? And that's really big too in like music academia, of like the conversation of like what is music. And I know I had to write a paper on it, like is music universal, or like what constitutes music, like like the sound of like cars on the street or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I've heard like performances where it's just like hitting a table or something, and it's like it's music, and this is why it's like
it's really crazy when you start to like dive into it. And I think kind of like the line for some people is like bird song, like when they're like birds are like whistling and stuff like that. I think is like considered one of the, I guess, more like
basic
primal music in a sense. But yeah, it's really cool. And I mean, there's this one performance piece where it's this guy sitting at a piano on a stage, and like there's an audience, and so he sits there ready to play, and he never plays anything. And like they use that as like a contemporary piece that like they're like the audience was the music or the performance. Yeah, so that's kind of like the far polar opposite.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of like music at its best, like form of art, because like a lot of like you see it like modern art is like crazy, like Banksy, he like shredded his piece and it was just making a statement and stuff, so it's kind of getting to the point where it's like, is this art, is this music? But as long as you can kind of explain why it is and like the process behind it, like anyone, it can be art. It's up to perception.
I don't think his song was very catchy though. I don't think it's it's probably not gonna be on my next playlist.
Only in the textbooks.
That's a textbook one right there.
I think it was John Cage. I want to say that was his name, but yeah.
We'll find him on Spotify.
Yeah.
I start hearing nothing on my headphones. I'm like, this fucking slaps. Let's go.
You hear people like slowly walking into the auditorium and just. That's crazy.
The awkwardness really gets me going.
At the gym. I know you're talking about like TikTok stars and becoming famous. So I guess, do you have an opinion on like industry plants? I know like 24K Golden. I've heard that he's an industry plant, or like people call these different people industry plants.
Honestly, like not 100% sure. I'm not too well read on the subject, I guess. Like, I don't know, could you like kind of elaborate on it more?
Yeah. So it's just kind of like they come out of nowhere and they get really popular and no one really knows why. And it's from the listens, but they just call them.
Okay,
yeah.
I didn't even know the term. But yeah, I think it's just like, it's interesting, especially coming from like a music degree where like people are like really invested in like you're like professionally learning music theory. Like you're really like forced to master an instrument, and then if you're teaching also, like you have to learn how to teach people music. And like I think it's I feel like there, and then on the other side of things where it's someone picking it up, which is also totally cool. Like I encourage that. I love that. Not bamming on that at all. But like then that aspect of it is like, I guess there's the lack of music theory, which at the same time, like, music theory isn't a real thing. It's just kind of like a set of rules that we've created in Western music as like a guideline to sound good.
Sometimes you run out of chord progressions and like, I wish I knew more music theory.
Yeah, no, it's I always think, I'm like, are we gonna run out of music?
Yeah,
like,
I've thought about that a lot. Like it seems like music nowadays kind of sounds like older songs. A lot of samples are happening because it's like we are like running out of notes, it sounds like. But
especially with like popular chord progressions. I'm trying to think.
Anything by the Chainsmokers.
Yeah, literally. Like, there's this one jazz song, Red Clay by Freddie Hubbard, and so when I was like learning that like earlier first or second year in college, like I noticed that like Chance the Rapper used that exact same chord progression on Acid Rap.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's crazy. And then I started noticing it in a lot of other songs. And I think honestly, like especially from working at Code Beats, where it's like I'm just studying really like the anatomy of a song, not like the ornamentation in a sense. Like I think there's gonna get to a point, like we're gonna get limited by chord progressions if we haven't been already. Like there's just only so many ways I think that you can like loop something and have it sound great.
Yeah. I mean, this could be me being like ignorant to music, but do you think like electronic music has kind of if we were going to be running out of chord progressions and stuff like that, electronic music would kind of be like prolonging it. We have more sounds that we can play around with. We get more like robotic-y sounds and stuff to mess around with.
In terms of just chord progressions, I think we are limited. I feel like that would be like, well, I don't know, it's comparable to like how many words can you make in the English language? I guess that's not a good comparison, but like it's kind of like the amount of ways you can compile notes and like our our 12-tone like scale that we use in Western music, like the amount of ways you can combine those into a way that like has been influenced by culture to like sound good to us and then also to become popular. Like you could just do chord progressions that like I guess don't work in a sense and like start going that way. And you know, I mean that's how some people like became popular. Like jazz was like they made chords that don't work. And then, you know, that gave birth to like rock and roll and hip hop, funk, and like I mean, it's certainly a possibility. And then, of course, with like electronic music, you have new sounds. But like those sounds, unless you totally abandon like the pitches that we agree on to be like notes, then you're probably going to be a little restricted. But I don't know. That's
going
definitely
to the Wild West.
Yeah,
just really going nuts.
Just like you've totally like it's just random like sine waves now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you? I mean, you mentioned Code Beats earlier. Do you want to talk about like what you do for Code Beats? Because I'm honestly kind of curious.
Yes.
I see David Shepard talking about it a lot.
The goat. So yeah, I work at Code Beats, which is I don't know the term for it, but it's like a research, I guess, initiative at VCU in the College of Engineering, where the idea is to teach kids, like younger kids in like elementary or middle school, how to code. By making music. So it's essentially like you're learning like the very basics of creating like a variable. And so if you can like imagine a piano, every note on there corresponds to like an integer. So like you essentially can create notes. And so like my job is to transcribe beats. So like they'll give me like a lesson plan about, you know, like they want to teach this programming concept and have it kind of be in parallel with like chords or like sheet music or like kind of just like the instructional nature. It gets really trippy. I essentially will like listen to music and then instead of writing it in sheet music, I'll write it in code. So yeah, I create like the lesson files for them, and it's a cool time.
What's the software you guys use for that? Is it like custom stuff, or is it like I know Sonic? I've heard about Sonic Pi before, like a long time ago.
Sam Aaron, they started with Sonic Pi, and I gave that a look, but they actually transitioned to TunePad, which is what we're on now, and that's actually a website I believe created and maintained by a group at Northwestern University. And it's used for like other initiatives too, but it's like a web, I guess web app is the right term. It's like a website, and it's an in-browser DAW essentially, digital audio workstation. So it kind of looks like a more like kid-friendly version of like GarageBand in a sense, in browser.
All right.
And yeah, you can like create a track for instruments. You can use a sampler. Essentially like any instrument that's like a basic kind of like hip hop instrument you can create in there. And so like a big thing that they introduce is like the concept of like looping and stuff. So like looping is really common in just like drums, you know, like hi-hats just looping the same thing. Snares, they're on a loop. And it's really cool just like especially to have that music theory background and then kind of that like musicology interest of just like studying music and just like combining them together. And yeah, that was actually something I wanted to also kind of like just open up is just the idea of like songs and being like the similarities between them, because like for this job like I'm noticing a lot of similarities just between hip hop. Like it's really stripped down, there's no like effects on it, it's just, you know, the skeleton of a song, like your hi-hat, snare, bass, 808, which is kind of similar to bass, I guess. Shout out the article.
Check out the blog post.
I actually, it's no heartbreak.
No heartbreak.
I actually came up with like a sneaky way to use 808s because they don't really have it on there. So I use like their bass sound, which isn't very percussive, and I just create like a kick track with that, and I'll kind of make like a fake 808 on there. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting because like I've been going through, I think I've done like maybe 30 or 40 beats at this point. Wow. And so like going through like top 100 and just hip hop songs too that I would feel are more recognizable. Like they have so many things in common, just the drum like setup and the format of it, like the way that 808s work. Like honestly, just the overall texture of it, and like it's really been making me think. I'm like, damn, they're so similar. Like, what makes them, I guess, have their character? Because like if you listen to like a Drake song versus like Lil Baby or something, like they have their different kind of like likeness. And I'm starting to kind of like see that they're like skeleton wise and musically they're not crazy different. It's more so like the effects they put on it, and that's the stuff that gives it its character. So I don't know, that's just been on my mind a lot. So
yeah, no, definitely. And you said you work with kids in the school system.
So I don't directly work with them. I actually I'm just kind of in the back making the beats.
Oh yeah.
They're starting, I believe, the first camp. It's all virtual this year. Through I think like the first few weeks of July. So I'm hoping to just kind of like watch the Zoom call from the background and just see like how they're liking it.
And again, you said you're in the back, but do you think there's like, have you seen any kind of success with it, like for teaching success? Wait, do these kids know more about music, or do they know more about programming, and are they trying to learn one or the other, or just both kind of together?
I think the overall like initiative is really to kind of like teach programming just with the lens of music, to make it more familiar to them and to make it a little more like entertaining, and especially like coming from that like computer programming background, like I think it's more entertaining to create like a loop or like a variable if you're like making a hi-hat or like a bass track instead of like displaying your name 20 times.
Because when I originally learned how to program, it wasn't through like those like terminal apps. Like I tried those for like 6 months and it wasn't working. Until I found a YouTube channel where everything was done in graphics, and so you're programming graphics and stuff like that. The YouTube channel is called Coding Train.
Okay.
And I would do coding train activities, and it was this like really eccentric guy who was like have rainbows everything. And it would just be like, you would there was a function called circle, and that's how you do a circle, and you put in the coordinates, and you can make it move, and it was dynamic. It ran at a frame rate, but everything was like set up on the back end, so you didn't have to set up any frame rate stuff like that. It was so nice. So I'd be curious to see like using that, and then also using the code beats with music, just because the success I had with doing it with visuals and video and stuff like that. I think that'd be amazing.
I think a cool thing too with like music being a part of it, it's like specifically hip hop to like code beats, so like it's really like directed to be like, I guess, like new and like fresh. Like anytime there's like a new single, I'll try and see if I can incorporate
code classical music.
For
all the kids learning Latin.
We might be doing Brazilian funk actually.
No way. Oh my
That
would be fun. That'll be
so you could dance with it. I wonder if like they could have like dance competitions and stuff like that just for like kids. I don't know.
I mean, you can do swing on there and like different meters. So
that's cool.
I'm hoping to experiment with that once this like camp starts, and I can start like kind of playing around more and experimenting.
That'd be insane. And is it like their own? I don't know much about the tool, but is it their own language, or is it like Python?
It's Python. So the entire thing is a Python library. So
it's got to be one insane Python library, because I know I've tried to program audio before and it's never been fun. Never fun.
I can't even imagine that. Yeah, no, it's actually really clear. Like it kind of reads like just really basic Python, and as far as like variables. Again, we're not doing like advanced stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's really like it's a really basic thing. I think anyone could really pick it up, like regardless of how old you are. Like we actually, or they have an adult learner class too, and they got really good feedback on that. So
that's where you play classical music.
Yeah, that's where you can switch it up by the decade.
So this program just started, or is it?
I feel bad not knowing exactly. I think but I know they had a class in like January, February, and I believe they had one last summer as well. So they've just been iterating over curriculum, kind of improving as they go. And I think now they're at the point where the curriculum is pretty set on like the music theory side of just like teaching harmony and teaching like rhythm, and then notes. And I feel like I should know more of it, but
I try to Google. Is there a website? I try to Google to find.
I think it's just code beats and then Weebly.
/Weebly, I think. But it's definitely something that would be super sick to see in other cities. And I mean, this program seems great. A lot of people do really love making music. Especially like after the pandemic, everyone got, their MIDI keyboards and some software, and they started making beats. So I think this would be a great program for like other schools to have.
I think it's cool too, because you can directly export your song that you made on there into a WAV file. So like if you were like making like a beat or something, like say you wanted like a really computerized like drum machine sound, you could just like import that into an actual project. And I think that, to me, that's the coolest part of it, is like seeing this as not just like a one-stop shop for what you're making music, but like it's like, maybe like like I had like this sketch kind of an idea. Like I really had like the specifics. Like I don't want to drag and drop stuff. I just want to like program it. Mm-hmm. That to me is like a really interesting concept. And I found that like, so if I wanted to like play around with the chord progression to see if that's like what was actually in the song, it's faster to like actually just type it out than to actually like select the notes on the piano and place them and play it back.
Yeah.
So I mean, there is that efficiency boost to music production. So.
That's kind of interesting to think about, because like even now when I try to do anything with graphics, I still will find things easier to do doing the programming graphics that I learned when I first learned how to program versus going into like some professional editor where I'm like, why do I have to go through like 3 or 4 layered nested folders to find what I want? Let me just type it, like let's go. But that might just be a me thing. I think after you start programming stuff, you get used to it, and you're like, okay, I just want to type everything.
Big habits.
Look at this guy.
You're
on the website.
That's me.
You are on the website.
Yeah.
Code.
I felt so professional after like having my headshot on the website.
Codebeats.weebly.com.
Yes, check it out.
Cool.
Check them out.
And it's got David Shepard on there. Look at these lads.
A good man.
Yeah, it was crazy too, because like I think I first saw Code Beats in like a VCU news email, like you know the ones they like periodically send, and it was. Yeah, exactly. And I was like, that's so cool. And one of my music professors that I was taking a class with at the time had like a picture in it, like he was heavily featured. And I was like, that is so cool. Like, I'm just going to email this guy and see if I can work for them. So yeah, I just started kind of like helping them out with some stuff. And then it turned out that they needed someone who could know music theory and coding. So yeah, it kind of just fell into place.
You were like, this is perfect.
Yeah, it really was, because like what I do for this job really feels like what I did for my music classes, like creating like listening to a song and then creating like a sheet music like lead sheet of it, or just like kind of like an abbreviated version just with the melody, maybe the bass and chords. And that's literally what I do now, except I don't write it in sheet music, I just code it, which sometimes feels a little more natural. I keep thinking about like if I were to teach like a music major how to code music, how that would go. I think that would be interesting.
Does it auto-generate the music sheets for you? Like, do you program it and then it just generates the music
There's
sheets?
no sheet music, actually. It's kind of just like, I guess, what's the term, like sound clips, like how you would visually see like an audio.
Yeah.
But like, you were saying like, does it auto-generate?
Like, you were talking about sheet. Like,
oh yeah.
Music, I was like, if you could like auto-generate PDFs of just like sheet music.
That's a feature that I don't think it has, but that would be really cool to just like get like a
Logic
score.
Pro does it.
It generates.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like there's something it wouldn't be too hard to do, but also I don't think that they need to do that by any means. They're trying to teach kids how to program.
I mean, who knows? I mean, that I think if I was like first learning to code or really get like make beats, I would want to like. I think if the option was there, I'd be like, yeah, I'll learn sheet music too. Like, useful skill, because then you can really go into music. Like, you can read chord symbols. You can, like.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sure that.
I don't know bass clef at all. I'm trouble.
There's some crazy clefs out there too. There's like those are the only like the two main ones, but like there's alto, tenor,
Yeah.
It goes crazy.
All the notes are just on different spaces and lines. It's
just
like,
totally. You can make your own too.
Yeah.
So,
once it goes below the stuff or above, I'm like, I'm just guessing at this point.
I'm just kind of getting. I'm throwing darts at a dog.
Literally ledger lines, man.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
But so I was curious. So with like your background in music too, did you like study like music at all? Like how do you find yourself like producing?
So I did percussion all of like middle school. I did Orff Ensemble in elementary school, which was cool. So I really liked the marimba, and I was like, okay, I'll do this in middle school. And when I got into my freshman year of high school, I was in band and marching band and stuff, and did percussion there. And my professor or my teacher, he said, yo, check out this class. It's called Mac Music. You basically just get to learn how to make music like on a Mac.
Yeah.
And so that's what we ended up doing. We used GarageBand, we used Audacity. We learned about song structure, A/B kind of formatting with like songs, and we learned how to record stuff. They gave us little MIDI keyboards to use. I still have it. I forgot to give it back. But it's also really bad, so I don't even use it anymore. But
so if you're watching,
is that the one you use right now? Is that the little one you use?
No.
Oh my god, I was about to say.
No, that one's nice. That was nice. This was like 10 keys and like they all were the same color, like hard to push down buttons. It was crazy, but yeah, that's kind of how I got started. And then I didn't have a MacBook, so I used my mom's, and I used to make some stuff on there. I actually wanted to do sound scores.
Oh,
was
nice.
Like really what I wanted to do, because I enjoyed like hearing like how music fades out and in, and like all the different effects that they do on like movies and stuff. So that's what I originally wanted to do, and we did a couple projects where we made sound scores for things. And,
that's awesome.
And and then in like 2018 or 2017 I got my own laptop and my MacBook, and I got Logic Pro X on it, and that's what I've been using since. And you know, I got an audio interface back in the studio. I got a mic, the whole setup. That's kind of what I do now. Yeah. I'm really trying to get better at, I guess, like audio recording, because all my vocals, I'll put effects on them. I'll do auto-tune. I'll do all the things that I think I need to do, but it still doesn't come out as crisp as I want. So I'm still learning that kind of stuff. Yeah,
I mean, the most interesting thing for me is just seeing people's like process, in a sense, like people like physically work differently, like in their DAWs and just like their studio. Like I had a friend, he was really big with like with FL Studio.
Nice.
And just like watching, like literally sitting behind him and watching him just go from zero, like nothing, to like a beat was just like, it was honestly so like instructional, because I don't have like a huge background in production, but like I'd see the way that he would like structure things, what he would do first. And I mean, the process it's crazy.
There's a bunch of plugins that are on those softwares, and you open up a ton of windows, and all these different like program things show up, and you're like, you get lost in it. And
it was kind of nice seeing weren't they using FL Studio in the videos? We were watching a video yesterday, and he was making like Pierre Bourne.
Oh, Pierre Bourne, yeah.
So and it was like a tutorial, like the same way you'd watch like a programming tutorial to make something, but it was like
makes this beat in like 6 minutes. Awesome. and it's crazy what they do. And a lot of shortcuts too in DAWs is like keys, like you hardly touch the mouse sometimes, because you're just pressing keys to open stuff, close stuff, like move stuff.
It's just like those hotkeys.
Exactly. The hotkeys, there's like secret keys, like if you press option and like something will pop up, and you can only get to a certain plugin if you hold the option button and click on a normal like instrument track.
The craziest thing to me is I don't know if you've like listened to Steve Lacy's music at all. He literally produced like some of his tracks on GarageBand on iPhone.
Really?
Yes.
That's
like
crazy.
He has a TED Talk on it. Actually, it's insane. It's just like his whole thing is like like the barriers to music, or at least music production, are so low, or so much lower now. And it's just like the fact that because you can get like an adapter, you can record directly into your phone. And there's actually like an interesting community on YouTube of people who remakes like songs exclusively on GarageBand on iPhone.
That's crazy.
And like you can get like pretty close, honestly. Like you obviously can't do like crazy like compression or like EQ, but like you can get the likeness.
I'm sure you can get it like crazy mad.
What I remember, I watched What's Next by Drake on there because I wanted to do that.
Oh, no way.
But, sorry, I cut you off there.
No. That's insane. That is actually kind of wild of some of the stuff. Now I was just talking about like for getting some of it mastered or whatnot. Like imagine getting it mastered like straight from their iPhone or something, just being like pressing a button and be like, okay, thank you. I'd like it to be mastered now.
That's crazy.
Someone that I watch a lot and actually learned a ton from on YouTube is this guy named I'm a Music Mogul. He uses Logic Pro X, and the way that I won't lie, I haven't like watched tutorials on like Logic Pro. I just bought it and was like, I'm just gonna do it. This is basically just GarageBand on steroids. Like I don't really have to learn too much, but I ran into issues where I couldn't do something, or I didn't know how to do something, and so I learned a lot just from watching his videos of recreating like famous songs like Drake, any songs by big artists, and he'll remake it, and then he'll do like a certain thing, and I'm like, hold up, I'll pause it and I'll like go back, and then I'll like do it on my thing. I'll be like, wow, I didn't know how to do that. And I think it's a great way to learn how to use the software. It's just through like those videos of tutorials on how to remake songs and stuff. And
like we were talking about like running out of like I guess chord progressions earlier, but like when you start producing or like try producing, like the complexity of like everything is just insane. Like the ways you can make something like have an effect, or like take a small sound and turn that into like your sample that everything is built off of, and like in that way, just I guess like the art of production, I don't think we'll ever run out of things. But I mean, in like the actual like notes you're playing, maybe.
And I love that with the MIDI keyboards too. You can also like set a certain sound for each note, which is really cool. And I know I accidentally did this. I was trying to do something else, but I was trying to get a sound on my MIDI keyboard, and it turned out to be a sample. I put the wrong thing in there, but you can like press and hold a note, and it'll just like play like this song that I have sampled on there, and then or you can press it for like a second, and it'll play like a short clip of it, and then you can like move it up in pitch and like down in pitch. And it's really cool.
Like was it modulation? Is that the word? Or something like that.
It.
Like,
it does.
Like that's how.
Good description.
The knob.
The knob.
I don't know. Yeah, I was gonna ask you, what are your like, I guess, top 3 like influences for like artists or
for artists?
Yeah.
I would say artist wise would definitely be Mac. I'm a big Mac Miller fan.
Yeah.
I don't know too much about his process. I know he was more of an instrument guy. He wasn't like I guess like a producer. In a sense of where he has like a board and he's like pressing buttons and stuff. He's more like in videos you'll see him like singing, obviously you'll see him playing guitar, piano, even drums sometimes, like in the circles like documentary you can see like him doing stuff like that.
That's really sick.
I would say like from an artist perspective, him. I've been really getting into Pierre Bourne recently, and I watched his mini doc, and it really inspirational because he started out as an audio engineer and he started meeting some bigger people just by like putting hours in the studio and I really appreciate where he comes from as a producer because engineering's hard and learning it's like the stuff you don't want to learn like because music like is like, oh, this is super fun, like I'm being creative and stuff, and then like engineering is like doing all the DAW stuff, like doing all those things, mastering and all that stuff, and not as fun, but it's still like it pays off for sure. And his kind of journey from like an audio engineer to a producer and now an artist and producer where he drops his own albums now. He produces the whole thing and then he also raps on it, so that's definitely a pretty big inspiration.
It's like full circle.
One thing that just came to mind is, do you think that production is becoming like more and more romanticized as the same way like people playing guitar and people playing piano are? Like you can go on YouTube and find tons of videos of people playing piano or people playing guitar and stuff like that, and even non-music people will be like, that's awesome. Do you think music production with fancy and kind of tools like Logic Pro and stuff like that are also becoming sort of the same way, where even if you don't know music, just watching somebody produce and seeing how focused they are and seeing them like how much passion they have can get that kind 100%. Of vibe.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like the guy I was showing you before, that guy's only been producing for like 2 years. Like a lot and they keep getting younger and younger. These producers are literally like 17, 16, and like they like produce for like YSL Records and all these insane people, and it's like it's like they're literally like not even old enough to do anything except make beats.
I mean, I think it's like kind of like, because you have virtuoso like pianists and like musicians, and I think like the equivalent of that in the space of like producing is like your kind of like your ear and like your taste. Like be like you like could listen, everyone can listen to a hi-hat and be like, oh, like it needs this adjustment, but like if you're really like tuned in and like that I guess higher level, like you would know, you just kind of have like an idea maybe how it coordinates with the music or like the vibe overall, and like I really think there is like that level of like skill that you can build like that. And I was actually going to say there was an interesting conversation I had in a class. It was actually at a recording studio in Richmond. So
what was the name of it?
It's the class or the studio?
Studio.
In Your Ear Studio.
I love In Your Ear Studio. Hell yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a really cool place.
Carlos. I went to Atlanta with Carlos. Yeah, that's a story for another time.
I'm curious about that. Carlos, I mean, he's a really like just knowledgeable guy.
So smart.
Yeah,
Carlos is he recorded with 50 Cent in like back in like 2003 or something. At In Your Ear.
Yeah, didn't he have one with like an album with Tyga? I know he has like those plaques on the wall.
Yeah, it's something ridiculous, dude.
But he teaches a class called, or it's a 2-semester long class. Like one class you start from like the basics of like what is a sound wave to like running a recording studio, and then the second semester is more hands-on, like what mic would you want to use, or like if you have a client with like a studio like and they want you to do some sound work. But so a conversation we had was kind of the difference between like a sound engineer and what is now called like a producer, kind of like in pop culture. And I thought that was like an interesting divide, because I guess like strictly speaking, a sound engineer is someone who you give like audio or like they're working a session and their job is to just make make the music sound good to like the artist's liking. But then you also have like producers, like how we kind of like think about it as like they're like the composer, they're the engineer, and then they're also just like the artist, like in the way that they present their sound and like their person as a whole. And I think that's also really interesting too, because like the like engineering and composing at the same time is not easy.
Right.
Like it is like that is a whole profession that a lot of people will just, you know, learn on YouTube. They'll watch videos, they'll follow along. And like that to me is really, really impressive to see people who can like do that. Because I personally like writing music is hard enough for me, and then like having to like go into like the engineering side gets really like it just gives me a headache. That's why I'm not a producer. But yeah, I think that's just like interesting too, just because the divide, like as you have more people who are like who can write easily and they can get their stuff onto like GarageBand, it's like where does production or I guess the engineering come into play? Like I mean, do you need it? Like
right? Yeah.
Like mixing and mastering it's a huge thing, but if you can make a really popular song without having it professionally like mixed, like it brings into question. I mean, it's definitely. I mean, it's an interesting conversation, like also with the way that music is going, because the barriers are getting lower, in my opinion. Like with a larger online community, that I'm sure you guys are totally aware of too. Like, it's just you can make more with less, and
simple beats, simple
right. Who knows like what it'll eventually come to. Like I saw something, it was like someone had like a AI like kind of just like producer, something like that. Like they were able to just kind of like put in like things to teach this machine learning model for it to create something in that style. And I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah,
like,
it's like I know for images it's called neural style transfer.
Okay. Yeah.
And it's like taking one style of an image and putting on, like you could take, Van Gogh's A Starry Night and then put that kind of style in any picture you take with your iPhone or something.
Yeah.
So the same kind of deal with music where you just take one thing and just meld them together kind of.
I wonder like what makes like Van Gogh, like, like looking at that, what are like the things that stand out that you can then copy that and like make something stylistically similar? Like, how can, like, just the fact that like I guess a machine or like a program can even like, or I mean I guess someone programmed it, but like that, like you can get those things from that, like that's so insane.
Yeah, I mean it's really there's a really nice paper on it, but it's fancy machine learning. But I don't know if it's a neural. Yeah, well it's neural style transform, so it's probably a neural network. But I need to reread the paper to figure out exactly how it worked. But I remember at some point I was like, this is wild.
Yeah, I mean, like that's my biggest thing too with music. It's like how do you get like style? How do you, I guess, like use that to stylistically get to somewhere else? I guess it would be good to look at that.
And that's I guess you could use it something like auto-tune where you're singing and all of a sudden you're singing but you're somebody else.
Yeah.
Like,
oh my gosh.
Like almost like deepfakes but just voice.
Yeah.
Right? And then you could be Drake. Like you could sing and you can do whatever you want and say whatever you want. Yeah. And then Drake's voice comes
like
out.
a sound mask in a sense.
Yeah. That's a real positive, because I mean deepfakes already basically do that because they have all the sound, they have video and sound, they do everything.
That would be crazy. Or just like I'm gonna do a Drake verse right now.
I'm gonna leak a Drake song, but it's not actually gonna be a Drake song.
Could you like rap it like and like be awful and like it would sound good?
Yeah,
like,
I mean that's what auto-tune already kind of is.
Right. Yeah.
Like, and you could probably somebody's definitely done this before, but I like make leak songs using this tool. Like create this tool, make a bunch of leaked songs with it, and then just make money off of it. Like sell the leaked songs to people.
Early release.
Is this a confession? What do you do? You already do this?
No. Whoa.
So I assume that like posthumous like albums and like releases must use something similar. If something's not pre-recorded, like for example, like with Juice WRLD was it Mac? I don't know. Like some of like their releases, like that was released posthumous. I believe that they used like some generated form of their voices. I'm not totally sure if that's correct, but I'm curious like if they actually do use that tool for that. Because I know also like that's more of like an interesting debate on like should music still be released like that after someone's gone if it's not actually them.
Yeah, I mean, like the Michael Jackson thing. Where
exactly.
More songs like making their own Michael Jackson songs.
Like if I had like like tons of songs that I was sitting on unreleased, I'd be like whatever. But like if it's like totally like synthetically generated, that would be like crazy.
Yeah,
That really you have to trust your producers on that one.
Yeah.
I mean, well, Thomas, thanks for being on the podcast.
Yeah,
podcast number one.
Podcast number one. I'm happy to be on it.
Podcast number one. Yeah, this has been really awesome. I think we're definitely gonna have to get you on for another one because this has been really exciting. Yeah. I know there's a lot of stuff that I plan on talking about. I'll tell you about the trip to Atlanta with Carlos.
Carlos, if you're watching, hope you're doing alright.
I'll have to send him something.
It's like Shaco sessions, but in the loop sessions.
All right, yeah. So make sure to check out intheloopstudio.com and also as well as the blog.
Follow our social pages.
All the social pages. What do you want to? What would you like to shout out?
Shout out Codebeats.
Codebeats.weekly.com.
Yeah, gotta give them some love.
Anything else?
Honestly,
if Spotify is watching this, should they hire you?
Please. I don't know. What am I? I have a gig on Sunday. I don't know if you're interested in coming out.
Yeah, absolutely sure.
I don't know. I'm not really big on any projects right now. So.
All right. Well, stay tuned then.
Appreciate it. Yeah, stay tuned.
And stay in the loop.
Stay in the loop.